What's up, guys? Welcome back. Got another project here I'm getting ready to start on. Thought I'd share it with you. We got a custom part here we got to make for a customer here, and they got something that they thought of that they could probably use. It has something to do with mounting a wheel on it. So he came to me with a couple sketches here and asked me could I make this up for him. So this is the sketch of what the part will look like. You got a flange with a piece of tubing that's welded to it. Sticks out about 5 inches, and we've got a hole pattern here. And so this is what they had actually brought me here, and I was actually able, they traced this, so it was really close to the proper sizing there. I was actually able to measure this and come up with the bolt circle that I needed to know. And this is all metric, so it was actually pretty easy to figure it out once I was doing my measurements and everything. So what I've come up with is this is a 120 millimeter bolt circle right here. It'd be 5 holes, drilled and tapped, 10 millimeter, 1.25 pitch. Okay, and luckily I actually already had this steel plate burned out. This is something that I keep a couple around for another job that I do, the rollers that I build. So I had a couple of these still, so that'll work out pretty good. And so also for the center, I got this piece of tubing here, and this is 1 by 1 3/4 steel tubing. So this is perfect for what I need to go in the center right here. The OD is not critical, even though that circle is drawn there. The OD of this isn't really critical, and the 1 inch ID is already clearance for something else, so there's plenty of clearance there. So what we'll do, this has got to be 5 inches long. So I got plenty of material there. I can part this off, clean both ends up. What I'll do is we'll chuck this plate up. I'll bore it and machine a weld prep on both sides, put a little V there, and then I'll turn this piece, and it'll basically look like that. We'll have a little turned in here that I can just press it in there, give it a light press fit to keep everything nice and straight, and we'll weld both sides. The other side where it's pressed in, you know, it'll be flush across there, but I'll have a little V here on this side that I'll weld it up, and then once it's welded, then I'll be able to chuck the whole piece back up in the lathe, and we'll turn the OD and face it off nice and true. And then the last step, we'll take it over to the milling machine. I'll use the super spacer and chuck it up in the vertical position, find the center, all set for the hole pattern, and drill and tap our 5-hole pattern. So that is the project at hand. So getting ready to get started on it. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and chuck this piece up and start getting the hole bored in it. I bead blasted it, and I went over there and just with the flapper wheel removed that little edge from it being cut out. That was a plasma cut piece down at my buddy's welding shop. So I put the 3-jaw in here, reverse the jaws, and we're just going to use that to quickly and easily hold this piece. And there is a slight bit of kerf to the plate here. So what I'm going to do is put the largest part of it, which would be this side here, I'm going to put it to the back. Okay. Alright, that looks good. So center drill it with a 1/2 inch drill, and I'm going to use a 3/8 taper shank drill to get the hole in here, and then we're going to bore it to 1.5 inches. By the way, a little tip. I've always been in the habit of putting the chuck keys back in the chuck so that they're always with the chuck whenever you're ready to use it. That's another one of my pet peeves, is you can't find the chuck key whenever you go to use this thing. Alright, I got my bar set up. I'm using a 1-inch bar that holds a 3/8 square tool bit. There's a high-speed steel tool bit there. Alright, see where we're at. Okay, 1-inch 385. Got about 10 thousandths over. So I'm going to take this to 1.5 inches, and then we'll machine the tubing for a light press fit in there. I'm going to run at the same speed, 180, 5 thousandths feed rate. Big old chip landed right there in my shirt. Right in my shirt pocket. Alright, that was 50 thousandths. Okay, 1-inch 440. Take another 50. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and speed it up. So I know I got about 10. I'm just going to use my calipers for this measurement here. And whenever I machine the tube, I'll make sure I get an accurate reading on it here. Okay. I'm just going to take 5, and then we'll make another cleanup cut. Alright, so it looks like about 7. I'm just going to dial in 7, and that's where it'll be. Okay. I'd say that's close to 1.5 inches there, huh? Close enough. Alright, I'm going to take this tool bit out. That was a little tool bit that I was using right there. Just a little chip breaker. And I've got a V tool here. Let's see which one I want to use. I'll probably use this one right here. A lot of people call this chamfering tool. Perfect for the 90-degree end on the boring bar. So what I want to do is, I think I had mentioned beveling both sides, but I'm not going to bevel both sides. I'm going to chamfer one side, and the one side I'm going to cut a bevel on here, and that'll be for a weld prep. We'll fill it in when we weld it. I think I'll just start with the back side and hit that chamfer. I'm just looking at it here on the back side. Okay. And I'm going to come to this side and cut us a weld bevel here. Alright, starting to ring on me because of the speed and the thinness of the plate. I think that'll be fine right there because we'll have a bead on both sides, so we'll machine the tube with a bevel on it also to kind of match that one there. Alright, so that piece is going to come out of the lathe now, and I want to set up my 4-jaw chuck to do the machining on the tube because my I just don't trust my 3-jaw. It doesn't run perfectly true, and I want it to run true. Alright, got the forge all set. We're getting ready to indicate. A lot of you guys love watching me indicate, so I'm going to go ahead and show you this. And you see it's not tight yet, just so I'm not tricking you. Snug up 2 of the jaws. I'll get the steered indicator over here. Look at that. About 10 thousandths, huh? So what I'm doing, I'm watching my needle. I'm not even really concerned about what the line is, what the number is. I'm just watching the needle for high, low. See, high, low, high, low. So, you know, I'm watching that for the high. So it's actually in between these 2 jaws right here, right? It doesn't matter. You just go to the closest one and adjust it, because it's going to eventually bring it back to one of the jaws that you have to move. So, you know, I'll just go to that one and we'll snug it a little bit. See, there's your low, there's your high. We'll snug that one a little, and that one was loose. So I automatically know I'm going to the 180 jaw and I need to snug it up. And I just keep working it. Usually what I'm doing in my mind, I believe, is I'm watching for the low. And once I see that low, I automatically pull it around 180 to that jaw. So right there, we're within a thou. Okay, that's not hardly moving at all. It's just barely flickering. So, all right, that's pretty good. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to use this end here. Let me grab my calipers. So this end's already been turned just over 1.5 inches. We're about 35 over, so I'm going to use this right here. So what I'm going to do is just we'll just part it off, and then I'll machine it to 1.5 inches to give it the fit that I need on the plate, and then we'll cut the weld bevel out here on the end. Okay, so alright, be right back. I need my glasses. Alright, so the plate's 1/4 inch, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to part it a little bit long, and we'll make a little face cut. And I'm using the 1/8 inch part of the scale there, but I can move it down like this. I got it set about on 5/16. So we'll part that bit off right there. Let's see how this does. Running 180, just hand feeding, just keeping quite a bit of pressure on the tool bit. Okay. Part tool out, and we'll put a turning tool in. Okay, got me a 1 to 2 mic, and I know I'm behind you here. I'm getting another measurement on my bore of the plate here, and I keep getting 1.500 with my Mitsutoya calipers. So I think I'm just going to shoot for something like 1 inch 502 or 501. I don't want it super tight. Just want it to hold it square in there. Alright, so we're at 1 inch 518. I'm going to go ahead and take another 10. Okay, 509. Yeah, I think I'll hit, we're going to dial in 6 and see where we hit it at. All right, 503 right there. So I'll see if I can hand fit it. May do have to do a little bit of filing there, but I don't want to turn it anymore. So if you remember, I left it a little bit long. We left it a 1/16 long, and the reason for that is whenever I chuck this piece up after it's on here and it's welded, we're going to take a face cut, and it'll make it, as long as I feel the weld bead in good, you'll have a nice solid piece of steel all the way across. That's what we're going to shoot for anyway. Alright, so now I need to cut a weld bevel on here. So let me get that. I'm going to use the same kind of tool, chamfering tool. And I'm going to take a quick little measurement on the plate here. And I'm about an 1/8 inch back. So I'm going to need a little more than that because of the length here. Yeah, so I got to come on back with that. Okay, a little more. I'll touch that up there. Alright, that'll work. So you see the 1/4 inch mark, that's where the edge of our plate will be. Alright. Well, I already know this is going to be probably a little too tight for what I want it. Ain't got far to go in there. So I'm probably just going to take my little file here, do a little bit of hand filing. Okay, I think that'll work right there. We'll go over to the arbor press and see if we can get that pressed in there. All right. Well, we can't press it in yet. We got to go ahead and part it to length. I just made me a little mark there to kind of reference where I know I gotta part it. So we'll get her indicated again. Okay, 1/1000. All right, that's good. Okay, what I'm going to do here, use my hook scale. I'm going to grab the back. What's that? Okay, there it is. This is not a critical length, so close is close enough. Alright, I'm just looking down at here. Okay, it looks like 5 inches, so we'll leave the carriage set up there. Unhook my scale. Alright, we'll go ahead and get her parted off. Alright, so that's going to be the open end. What I'd like to do is go ahead and just clean that face up, make it look good, and then we'll put a couple chamfers on there so that there's no sharp edges and it looks nice. I'm just going to touch it. Alright, got my chamfering tool. We'll do the same thing. I got to bring it up just a little for the inside. Okay, I'll just hit it with a little emery and that part's ready. Alright, I got you over here on the Greener arbor press and we're going to give it a shot. It should be about 1,000ths interference, which can sometimes be difficult to get in. And that's what this is doing. Just won't stop. There it is. Yeah, it's shaving a little bit off. You can see the little splinters there. But I'm looking at it and trying to see if it looks like it's down flat on the shoulder, so I'm going to give it another little squeeze here just to try to make sure that we're there. Okay. Alright, so we'll come over here and we'll fire up TIG welder. TIG weld that up. We'll run us a bead around the outside. Hopefully I can do a good job with the TIG weld on this one. I'm going to use some 3/32 steel TIG rods. These are ER70S-2. I'm about out of these things. I got to get me some more. just using the lay wire technique. I get my puddle started and I lay my rod in there and I just let it flow it in. That's not looking bad, but I think I had such a deep V, I'm gonna have to go back over it again to build it up some. Okay. Alright, not too bad. But I'm going to go over it again and I'm going to make sure I got enough weld there so that when I face it off, I know it'll clean up. Okay. Alright, I think we got plenty of metal there to face off. So now we got to do the back side. Things getting hot. Alright, now for the other side. Let's see if I can do this. I'm just going to use just a technique where I've got the cup rested against the part and I'm just rocking it. Kind of like almost like pipe welders walking the cup, but if you can get it right, it usually makes a pretty good looking bead. Bad. Oh, yeah, I missed it. I think I saved it though. Okay. Looking pretty good. Alright, so just kind of move it around, make it a little easier to get to. Alright, let's see if I can finish this off. One more pass here. Okay. All right, not too bad. I think it'll pass. It'll work. So I'm gonna let this sucker cool off, and then we'll go back to the lathe, do some more turning and facing. Okay. Got the part nice and cooled down. Here's a little better shot of the little TIG welding job that I did. And this is the side we're going to face off. So we're going to go back into the lathe here. Get it kind of close. I want enough for indicating there. So we're not going to be able to use my standard steer indicator to get in there. So what I did was I mounted up my 2-inch travel onto the Noga, and that'll allow me to reach in here and get this tube indicated. Go ahead and spin that around. Okay. Okay, getting close. Plenty close enough for what we're doing. We're still about 1,000, so I'm going to try to go ahead and get her closer. Okay, I think that's within a 1/2 thousandths. All right. Okay. Got a little bit of warpage there from the weld, but we'll get her faced off. We're going to turn this OD down a little bit and face it off nice and true. All right, the OD of that part, the OD of this is somewhere around 7 3/8, 7.5. Okay, it looks like 7.5. We're going to take this down to 6 3/4 of an inch, so we got about 3/4 to take off of it. We're going to have to slow this down, and you run a little possibility of this thing ringing whenever you're turning and facing, so you got to kind of slow the op down some. So I'm going to run at 180. Let's see how we do here. not bad. I'm taking 100,000ths cuts here. I'm going to use my sterrets because these go to 8" See where I'm at. Still at about 7 1/4. So got another 1/2 inch to come down. So you get her on down close. We'll bring you back. All right, I got her close, so I'm going to go ahead and use my micrometer to get me down to 6 3/4. All right, I'm measuring 6 inches 8/10. So we got basically 60,000ths to come off. All right, I'm going to dial in 30. Make a cut, and then we'll mic it and cut it again. Right, 25, 30, 32. Okay, 32. It's 32 1/2. We'll just dial in 32. And this will be our final cut. See how close I got it. Should be right there on it. Within 1,000ths. Yeah, 1,000ths over. It's 751. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and chamfer that back side real quick just to get rid of all those turnings there. Hope I can get it in here. Okay. Man, gotta watch out for that crap. We'll use my new needle nose that Mike sent me. Pull the suckers off. Okay. Alright, let's do some facing now. Alright, first thing I'm going to start with is weld. We'll get the high spots down, and then we'll touch off and run the whole width of it here. I'm going to play with some speed. I'm going to start with 370, and if it tries to ring on me, I'm going to have to slow it down. that's got us real close there, so we'll go ahead and back out here and touch off. Okay, let me get me an indicator set up here. Okay, it's 20. It's actually doing surprisingly better than what I thought it was going to, and that's not a whole lot of having to face off. I see I'm going to have to take another pass there, but I like to make a cut to kind of see where you're at. So look and see here. Okay, so we got one spot there. I think Keith Fenner likes to call those hollows. We got a little hollow there, and I do see two little spots there in the weld, but that may clean up. So I'm going to come back and we're going to take another 10 and see if that'll clean it up. All right, that's looking pretty good there. Nope. Okay, I thought I seen a dark spot there. So we'll just go ahead and we'll just move in another 5 here, and then that'll be good to go. Come on, chips. They start wadding up on you and they don't want to fall right. All right. I think that turned out pretty good. It cleaned up all my weld too. All right, we're almost done with this lathe work. I need to chamfer this OD, and then I want to come over here to this ID and just clean that bore up so that we have a true area here to indicate on in the mill. All right, let me slow that down. Okay. All right, that feels good. I'm just going to rotate this tool around. I don't have a bunch of tool holders like some guys do. You know, these multi-fix holders are quite expensive. I've got quite a few. I just don't have a pile of them, so I have certain ones that I keep a certain type of tool on, and I just swap it out when I need. Okay, I got to raise it up a little. Okay. All right, I need to set up a small bar, and I want to come in here. I want to come in here and just skin this ID just a few thousandths to make it run true with the OD there. Okay, I already had that little bar set up, so I'm just going to touch off. We're just going to go in like, you know, a half, 3/4 of an inch and make sure that's running true. Okay, I'm touching so you can see it's out a little bit. Five thousandths, see what it does. Alright, let's take 5 more. Alright, I think that'll work there. Okay. Nice and smooth too, so what I'll do is take just a little piece of emery. I'm just softening this chamfer up right here. It's got sharp edges on each side. Put that there. And let's look at the face. See if we got any fuzz on it. It actually feels nice and smooth, man. That left a good finish on it. What I may do is just hit it with my Scotch-Brite. Alright, we need to file the corners out here a little bit. Just kind of remove the sharpness of the transition. Okay. All right, I think that'll work. So next step is the milling machine. Okay guys, we're on the mill, as you can see, obviously, using the super spacer, and we're going to be using this like a dividing head. I'm sorry, not a dividing head, a rotary table. I've already got it unlocked, and as you can see, I can turn this, and it's been a little while since I've used it like this, and I was going to point out a couple things that's a little frustrating about this style unit here. For one, the hand wheel right here is too large to sit over the top of the mill table. So you got to have it either standing up in a horizontal position, or you got to turn it to where it's hanging off. You know, so if you turned it this way, where the handle's straight out at you, you really don't have any good areas to clamp down to it. I mean, you can come over here and put a clamp here, and there's another little casted area that you can put a clamp there. So usually what I do is kick it at an angle, and I've got a T-bolt in this slot and then a T-bolt in this slot on the back side. So, you know, you just kind of wedge it in there, and we got her pulled down. Let me make sure I tighten these up. Okay. All right. The other thing that's a little frustrating with my unit is this 3-jaw chuck has only got one socket on it for your chuck wrench, and the one I got at work, which is identical to this, it's a 3-jaw chuck, and it's got 3 of them, like all 3 jaws do. So it never fails that this is in the wrong position. You know, you want to get it lined up center. So anyway, I thought I would point those out. So what I have done, let me go ahead and get it back around here to 0. Okay, so I've got her lined up on your 0 mark here, and then on this dial there's a 0 on this dial also, and another 0 which is turned around here on the side. So I've got to kind of bend down here like that and look at it, but I've got both of those zeros lined up. You can go to 60 seconds on this, and I've got this 0 lined up here. So, so the reason why I've got to do it this way is the indexer will only lock in every 15 degrees. Well, I'm doing 5 holes, so that's not an even, you know, it's not every 15 degrees or whatever notch it'll drop into. The way it sits, you can drop it in at any 24 locations. And I do not have a plate for it with the 5 notches on there. So we're just going to do it this style. We're going to start on 0, that'll be our first hole. And then I went ahead and just kind of made my little cheat sheet here. 0, 72, 144, 216, and then 288 will be our last hole. So we'll drill a hole and just rotate it like a rotary table and get it going. So first thing I got to do is get it indicated, and that's why I get this little spot on the ID here. That's true with the OD, so we're going to get that. We're going to get that indicated. And this chuck is always done real good. We could, once I indicate that, if I swept it, it'd probably be within about 2 thousandths. So that's going to be plenty close enough for our hole pattern there. So I just wanted to make sure we got it on 0, 0, and that's going to be our first hole. So let's go ahead and get her indicated, okay? Okay, let's see. I think you can see that pretty good there. I've already adjusted it kind of close. I really want to get me one of those little Noga arms that I can just stick up here in this collet. Let's do this side to side. Okay, about 9, 0, about a half. Okay, 0 there, so we can go to 0 on the front here. Should put us close. Come around this side and look. I still don't have my mirror, and I'm not going inside to get this out. Get out of the mirror. That's a half a thou. You know, you can live with that. So, just going to touch it. A little less than a half a thousandths. Just under the 0 there, and we're on the 0 there, so we're well within a half a thousandths there. So that is good. That is going to be our centering location. What we're going to do is offset it. It moved a little after I locked the table there, didn't it? Okay, that's good. I got it locked back again, and then I've got this one ready to move this way right here, okay? Alright, time to offset it. As I said, the bolt circle is going to be 120 millimeter. That is 4.725, so I divide that in half. That is 2.3625. So that's where I'm going to move it to. That's 2 inches, 200. 3, 50, 60, 2.5. Okay. All right. That'll be our circle there. And I wanted to use my Super Chuck because it holds better and it's easier to tighten and loosen, but I didn't think I was going to have enough room with my drill bit. So I'm going to try this smaller chuck here and see if that'll hold it. I just don't like it as much because it's a small key and it seems to get really tight. When you try to loosen it, it doesn't want to come off very much. Very easy. Okay. Alright, we've got everything on 0. Spacers on 0. Probably use a little bit of Molly D this time. I've got it in this Spillmaster here. Got a little bit around here. I hardly ever use it. I'm using a 11/32 drill bit. We're going to be tapping it M10 by 1.25. Chamfering tool. Go ahead and put a little of this Molly on here. See how it does. Okay. Alright, that looks alright. So, let me move you a little so you can see what we're doing here. Alright, we're going to go ahead and go to 72, so we're going to loosen that. Okay. Alright, there's 70. There's 1, and then I'll line up 0 and 0 here. There's 72 degrees. And that'll be our second hole location. I went ahead and thinned my Molly a little bit with some of my cutting oil. Make it a little bit thinner. You see it trying to stop there. It's that chuck not wanting to hold very good. Okay, next hole, 144. It's 143. All right, 144. Fourth hole, it's going to be 216. 15. 216. All right, our last hole is going to be 288. Five, 6, 7. All right, 288. Come on. There you go. Okay. All the threads look good. My chamfering tool was still trying to roll just a little tiny edge up there, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit more hand deburring, and I'm gonna have to come around the back side and deburr those and make sure there ain't no chips or sharp edges there. Alright guys, that's it. It's finished up. I think it turned out pretty nice. We hit all of our sizes and it's nice and true. So this one's ready, and I'll call the guys and let them know. I don't remember what all I had said at the beginning there, but this is some kind of, they're trying to figure out a way to balance a special wheel. There's a wheel that they can't mount on their machine, and this is going to have something to do with that. And you know, according to the dimensions that he gave me, this should work, but it's kind of like a prototype. You know, they're trying it. They're going to try it and see how it works, and it's possible we may have to come back and make some modifications to it. But he's thinking that if I made it like he asked there, that this will probably work for his balancing machine. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed watching. Got to show a couple new things there on the machine, and we had some fun. It's you know, it's the weekend. I'm just out here hanging out, and wanted to get this done, and been reading some of your comments. So thank you for watching. Thank you for the continued support. See you next time.